Welcome back to another episode. Give me 1 second. I got to turn down the other computer. But I got my man here, Maalik Obasi, right? So we're going to flex on this episode. And the reason why we're going to flex is because Maalik has been great. I literally just connected with him the other day. I said, hey, you got to come onto the podcast because you're so dope. You got a lot of great experience. I'm going to flex for you. Just give me a moment. He's a creative director. Okay, executive creative director. Let's get that correct. Okay, he's also a professor. All right, and then he's also worked with some of the biggest brands in the world, from Nike, Jordan Brand, Jaguar, and the list goes on. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great, man. Super excited to be on Riverside with you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to we hit it off when we connected. I said, hey, I was like, yo, I got to have you on. Right. So with all of your experience and, your history and your work, it speaks for itself.
Thank you.
You made an analogy, and I'll let you dive into that. I was like, you're already a professor. You're well accomplished. Why are you still striving for greatness at this point?
I mean, we don't have to look any further in terms of modern examples of men, especially brothers, who strive for greatness, whether it's in sports or academia or business. So I just want to, do all I can to reach back and help other designers and be a mentor and a leader and be like, hey, I want to be like that dude when I grow up, kind of thing. And that's all I can do. It's kind of like about establishing a legacy. For so long, a lot of within the Black community, creative endeavors weren't always something that was looked upon. And I went to a historically Black college, Hampton University. Shout out to my Pirates, love it. My home by the sea, had a great time there. And it's business, and finance, and architects, and all that other stuff, and it's great. But at that time, it wasn't something that I think that was really getting pushed through the school. But once I dove into it, I was just like, I love this. I love being creative. I love, sharing ideas, concepting, and it just led from one thing to another. And I just moved into the design industry.
So let's start early childhood. I know I sent you some questions, like high overview, but let's take a deep dive. Like, what brought you? Like, what planted the seed early on, as far as your artistic endeavors?
Obviously, my parents played a big part in that. They encouraged me to be creative. My mother is a classically trained, musician and pianist, and so music was always a big part of my life, and that was kind of like helping plant the seeds for creativity. And then they kind of like, encouraged me to draw and all those kind of things. And then when I got older, I got a computer and I started learning how to draw with the computer. And it just went from there. And I just kept with it. And, I just embraced that whole element of wanting to be creative and make something unique and special.
Like, excuse me, did you know that you had a talent, or was it something that you had to work at?
Yeah, now, I'm going to be 50. I'm 49. So in retrospect, I think all I can say now is when I look back that everything that led me to being a creative now happened because I embraced it. And that's all I can, it's like the seeds were there, but it's like when I look back, I'm like, wow, I was doing this, I was drawing and learning how to use my computer, how to design. And so now I can say, yes, I definitely feel that it was there, but I didn't realize it until probably a couple of years. Well, most recently. I was just like, oh, wow, I was meant to be a creative. Like, and I looked at, astrology and astronomy and looked at how my birth chart was and all that stuff. And it just points to me just being creative. Just like the only way I would be happy is to create it. And I thought about, traditional endeavors, law school or something like that. But I know now that I could never have done that because I love what I do so much.
Now, we're talking about like what you do, right? Like, what is a creative director, right? Because there's so many facets of it that I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it. Can you let the audience know that's watching on YouTube or if they're listening on Apple or Spotify,
Sure.
what is a creative director and how do you get to be a creative director?
Okay. A creative director is someone who oversees the design, development, and strategy for a brand. That's the quick answer for it. How do you get there? Generally, traditionally, you would go through design school. You learn the foundations of design, building out your ideas and concepts, generally for sometimes 4 years or to 2 years. And once you do that, you work your way up. You start off as generally a graphic designer, and then you traditionally, when you move through the advertising world, such as I have, you work your way up to becoming an executive creative director or a chief creative officer or something of that nature. So it generally takes several years, depending upon where you are and the organization you're working.
Now, do you have an expertise as far as like being is there a niche like that? Like, is photography big on it or what?
Yeah. So the one I want to go back. I want to answer it, but I'm going to go back to answer your original question. When I was 16, my father gave me a subscription to GQ, and that was probably the pivotal moment that started influencing me. And through looking through magazines, especially fashion magazines, over and over again, I started looking at how they were shooting the photography, the angles, like how they styled it. And I just went head over heels. I was just like crazy about it. I was like, this is dope. I love this. So the photography component as a designer is very, very important. Like just having a good eye for images, but then also for letter forms and shapes and typography and knowing how to blend colors together is really important. So having a good eye is very, very important as a creative. But photography is one you can do. My special niche specifically is within fashion, beauty, and luxury.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No, I'm saying that. So, and hence the brands that you work with. Now, are they reaching out to you, right? Like, because your portfolio speaks for itself. I mean, like the Jaguar, the Nikes of the world, and the Jordan brand. How does that go about you working with those type of brands?
Early on in my career, a lot of the senior people I worked with noticed that I had a certain eye, and so they would push me towards working on large global brands. And I guess over time, as I've done so, I've just kind of like gravitated towards that fashion, beauty, luxury sector because it's just my aesthetic is very clean and minimal, and it works for big oil conglomerates such as BP all the way to Nike or Swarovski or Armani.
So like, what was the 10,000 hours that you put in before or after work to get in the position that you are right now? Like, what did that look like?
I mean, I think most creatives will tell you that they're the kids who, like, you see in school always drawing or something like that. And so I think for me, the fashion, beauty, luxury thing just came naturally just based upon the work that I was doing. And they, again, like I kept getting pushed into this, the category of wanting to work on having the opportunity to work on very large brands.
Nice. So did you take your eye for fashion? Did you apply it to your real life? Like, were you best dressed in high school?
Yeah. I mean, I was really into fashion. I think fashion was the catalyst, and I immersed myself in design. I mean, I try to it's just all inclusive. Whether the magazines I look at, I'm always constantly thinking about design, and I'm always like, well, could I make this better? What I do, my heaviest influence though I would say is fashion for sure. I don't know if I thought I was one of the best dressed when I was in high school. Oh man, I had the Tripos back in the day.
Right.
I was killing it. But yeah, I think the fashion component, and as I look back, is always an integral component. And then as I moved into design, I was like so happy to be able to work on like a lot of fashion, beauty, luxury accounts. Because like I've been almost like training my entire life for these opportunities. So it's good. And what I definitely would say, Jay, is that the fashion, beauty sector, luxury sector is very, 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 it's a very, very small niche. And for people of color, even smaller, right? And so to get into those conversations and be in those boardrooms and talk with these people, you start to realize that, generally you are a raisin in a bowl of milk. Well, at least when I was coming through, it's gotten a lot better. Hopefully we want it to continue to get better and have more Black creatives in these conversations. But, it's a long journey by yourself, pretty much, in terms of working in that sector. You don't really get to see a lot of us in chief creative office roles or something like that, and within advertising. It's generally very, very few of us get to go into that sector, and specifically at senior levels.
So what do you think needs to happen, right? Like if, because you've been in a place of leadership, is there something that you've seen or that you're seeing now that can be enhanced?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the industry's changed a lot now because there's a lot more Blacks in design schools or coming out of design programs. And, and when I teach at Parsons, I see a lot of Black designers. And there's like the newer generation of designers that I'm seeing, the younger designers, they have more of a medium to express themselves across multiple platforms, whether they're content creators, whatever, it could be anything, right? That you can be like grow up as a sneakerhead and you become a creative director, working in Nike or something. There's so many more opportunities now, which is great. And I think that seeing more Blacks moving into the creative industry is something that I'm just really, really happy for. And what I would say need to change is it's already changing. So I don't think it still needs to continue to be, a larger conversation to get us to be, creative directors for companies and brands and agencies. But it's getting there. I would just look at all the young designers. You look at in fashion or through music or any of the mediums you find in the arts. And there's a lot of young, amazing talent who are just pushing their voice out there. And so now you're just going to, over the next few years, I'm sure you'll see a lot more creatives in those conversations at the senior level.
Now, I've got to ask you a question since you've worked with Nike and specifically the Jordan brand. Have you met Michael Jordan, and have you actually worked on a project with MJ?
No, I have not met. It is 23 today, yes, and we love Jordan. And no, 23. No, I have not got to meet him. A lot of the brands I work with, not the Jordan side, the people who are making the decisions are kind of like a little bit far removed. The creative process is a very integral part of it, but unless it's something that's really directly impacting them, they don't usually, get involved with those kind of conversations.
Now, have you met with other like designers, fashion designers, like rest in peace, Virgil, like those type of designers? Yeah,
well, that was the thing, Jay. Right, my first job out of school was working for Yohji Yamamoto here in New York, and at the time, I didn't realize how amazing it was, but that helped shape my life so much. That's probably my first job out of school working for, I don't hardly making anything, but I met him. I got to go to Paris, got to go to Tokyo. It was great. And at such a young age, being exposed to someone at that level was phenomenal. Really, and he was, and still is, a huge influence on me, and was very, he's traditionally, he's Japanese, so he's very humble, really great man. And he was this was already 30 years into his career, and seeing someone like that just inspired me a lot. There was also, there's a few Black designers when I was growing up as well, fashion designers that I liked a lot that influenced me. And that also helped spark that creative, light within me at the time.
Now, so in this current job market right now, right? So what type of tips can you give designers or UX UI or marketing in the creative space? What advice would you give them as far as their portfolio or their resumes? What should they highlight?
I think, the advice I tell my students and designers is just keep your portfolio simple and straightforward. Highlight, you don't have to show everything you've done, even if you're just starting off. You might have some project you might have done in school that you can represent. But just keep your portfolio very simple and navigable, and put your best foot forward. You get one chance to make a first impression, and so if I go to your site, if I look at your IG and it's trash, well, that because that's what all recruiters do. They go to your site, they look at your portfolio, and then they'll delve into your social media to get another kind of deeper look. So you want to if you're a designer, you got to make sure your brand it's a fully integrated 360 thing, just like the way you want to work for these companies, like a Nike or whatever. you have to have your brand, yourself and consider yourself a brand. And so if I'm meeting, Jay for the first time, I'm going to go to your LinkedIn, find your portfolio. If I can see your social, I'll look at that too. So I need to see a commonality in terms of the way that you're pushing out information about yourself and about your work. That's a big, big deal.
See, and let's not breeze past that, because like the social media piece is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we look, to your point, we do look at everything you just said. We look at the resume, we look at the portfolio, but that social media presence, I think, is huge. And from your perspective, does it have to match, or can you have like a personal, social media, and can you have like a professional, like Instagram? I checked out yours, and yours matched your portfolio. Like that's literally what I did.
That's all. Yeah, thank you. I would say if you've already created, like IG's been around, 15 years or something like that?
Something like that,
and when I got on the platform when it first started, I would say if you already have an IG and you have like photos of you going out to, to games or like brunch with hanging out, at a party, have a personal one and then have one that's a professional facing one. I would say I would recommend it. Just so, again, as a creative, you should not just have a portfolio. You want to have everything to be an extension. And you don't have to be on all social media platforms, but you definitely, the most common ones, like IG. I definitely, when I'm looking at designers, I go to their IG, and if it's private, I'm like, okay, that's fine. But you should also have something that reflects your work as well, because as a designer, your eye should always, you're constantly looking at things, training your eyes and being influenced by things. So for me, if I see that you have a great portfolio, but then I don't see anything else, or your portfolio is okay, but your social media platform that you optimize on are like fire, then I'm just going, okay, well, it might work out. So.
Wow. So, excuse me. So social media is like the tipping, it will bring you back to reconsider that candidate that you were working with.
Because that means you were thinking about things like, I don't want to have like a cookie cutter approach, but it means that you're thinking of everything around you and you're putting all that into your work. That it shows like your passion. It could even be your SoundCloud, give me your SoundCloud playlist. Let me look through that. It could be anything, but it has to be something where I see some extension of creativity within the work that you do and the way you express yourself.
So let's go back to Hampton University. Let's go back to your college years, right? And the reason why I'm saying that is because I recently just took my daughter to an HBCU event in LA. They had like an expo. We've seen everything. She's in seventh grade. So she's been exposed to different things. And they also had, California State Schools, and they had SD, San Diego State out there, just Berkeley. But I just wanted her to get that experience early. What was your experience like going to an HBCU?
Oh man, it was amazing. When I meet other creators or other professionals, and I ask them if they went to HBCU, and they're like, no, I went here, and I'm like, those are the 4 most pivotal years of your life, I would say, where you make like lasting friendships. I know, and it sounds really cliche, but it's true. Like people I went to school with Hampton, 25 years later, I can call them up and they're like best friends to me. It's just amazing. Just looking around and seeing people who look just like you, who are about, about growing up the way you are too, and just, the music, and it's just like it's just a vibe. It's just like, I can't explain it. It's something that you can never recreate again. Like, I guess if you maybe live in Atlanta or like a large Black community like DC. But like for me, most of the country's not like that. And Hampton was just amazing. It was just, you're seeing the future doctors and lawyers, but you don't think of them as that. That's just like my homie. Like you're like, oh yeah, blah, 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 you take classes together, you hang out together, it's just amazing. Of course I'm partial to Hampton because I love Hampton, but any HBCU, if students are thinking about going off to college, I would recommend just looking at the HBCUs because it's an amazing experience. You probably will never get any opportunity to be around such great Black excellence ever again.
And then you went to Yale. Come on, let's pause there.
These are years ago, man.
Well,
Yeah, that was.
so you went from HBCU, and then you went to Yale University, and and I'll let you dive into this. But how was that experience, though? You going from a predominantly black institution, then you go to a predominantly white institution that is so like it's an Ivy League school. How did you get in? How was the experience? And did it make you a better person?
Yeah, just standard, procedure in terms of getting in, submitting my portfolio. I had to develop some design solutions for like a creative brief that they gave, and submitted my grades, and that was it. Got in, and transitioning from HBCU to that, wasn't really. It was good that it kind of allowed me to start to go into the real world, and so it wasn't like because I grew up in a diverse background, so it was fine. It was more so a different level of academia in the sense I was only there for 2 years, so it was kind of in and out. So it was just a different type of environment. Great, it's good.
And as we land this plane, where can people find you on social media and LinkedIn?
Yeah, my LinkedIn is, you can access all of my social and everything through my website, which is prop.com/Maalik Obasi, MAALIKOBASI. And my IG is MAONYC. It's just a gold M, same M that I have on my portfolio and stuff. And yeah. Then occasionally I put up some tracks from my SoundCloud playlist on my IG too, so you can see what I'm listening to. A lot of
I'm gonna definitely have to check it out. If you could describe or give one word for the people that are coming up behind you and people that are in this job market looking for gigs, what word would you give
them? Passion. You got it. You can't get into this industry unless you're passionate about it. You can't get into branding and advertising unless you're passionate about it. So just follow your passion. If you are a content creator or something like that, or you just continue with if it really wakes you up when you wake up in the morning, you're like, I have to do this, whatever it is, whatever aspects of the arts it is, then you just have to be passionate about it. And it'll reward you later on because it'll come through in the body of work that you create and you see later on in life. That's what I've been trying to do myself.
Nice. Well, Maalik, thank you for coming on to the show. But before you leave, man, how would you rate this shirt right here, 1 to 10? How would you rate it?
Yo, your shirt is fire, man. It's 20. It's 100, a million.
Okay.
It's fire,
well,
man.
Thank you for giving me 100. Shout out to Cuts. It's my partner. Make sure you guys check out the description and hit the link. It's going to say The J Britton. Make sure you guys click on it, get your discount, and thank me later. It's buttery soft, right? Like you see that.
You got to send one to NYC.
Hey, shout out to Cuts. Maalik needs some Cuts gear. We can see if we can make that happen for sure, brother. Well, thank you again for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Until next time, peace.
All right, thank you.